Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Season 2 of Fear the Walking Dead. In this video, I give my overall review of Season 2 of Fear the Walking Dead as a whole. So I have to give a spoiler warning for Fear the Walking Dead up to the end of Season 2. If you haven't seen all of Season 2, then you may not want to watch this video, otherwise some things may be spoiled for you. So I did weekly episode reviews for the first half of Season 2, but stopped there because I was so disappointed with the mid-season finale I refused to review the show anymore. Well, at least weekly. However, I still watched the second half of Season 2, which I would say was a vast improvement on the first half, but it was not without its issues. So I was more impressed with Season 1 of Fear the Walking Dead than most, as it got a lot of flack, but I personally enjoyed it even more than the main show in many ways, as it seemed to be more character-based, and I loved what they did with the Season 1 finale. It felt original and fresh, yet familiar, so a different take on the Walking Dead story, which is what any spin-off should be like. However, I feel they lost that in Season 2, and instead it felt like a tired rehash of the same old shit that we've already seen on the main Walking Dead show, and I do think part of the reason for this massive drop in quality was due to the poor reception of Season 1, which I personally disagree with. So they tried to address these complaints by making the show more like the main show by having more zombies killing people and more zombie kills, and frankly simply recycling the same plot lines that we've already seen over and over again on the main show. So Season 2 starts off good with a very exciting first episode that shows them escaping on a boat together, but then it gets dull and uninteresting from there as they introduce boring characters and situations, such as a group of pirates that suckered Alicia into giving away their location so they could raid them, and they simply felt like a knockoff version of the many roaming groups we saw on the main show, but less interesting. Fear the Walking Dead started off by releasing a series of short webisodes that showed people on a plane when the zombie apocalypse first broke out. And those webisodes were very successful and very popular, and many people saying that they liked them better than the show itself. I didn't think they were quite that good, but they were really good. So they introduced the character of Alex, who appeared in Season 2, and I assumed she'd become a regular character, which in retrospect would have been a brilliant marketing move, as people were already on board with this character before she even appeared in the show. But instead of taking advantage of this, they squandered it by having her only appear in 2 episodes that weren't even that good. But the show only got worse from there by having a mid-season finale that almost totally ruined the show. So by the end of the first half of the season, they showed, that the show changed from them being on the boat to them being in Mexico, where they went to a compound where Strand's lover lived, which was run by his lover's mother. And this is where the show went completely to shit, because they completely ruined the best character in the show, Daniel Salazar, with a ridiculous storyline about him going insane, and then they killed him off, or otherwise wrote him off the show, at least for now. And they completely ruined Chris's character by having him all of a sudden turn into a psychopath that wants to kill Madison and Alicia out of jealousy, which totally goes against this character. As at the end of Season 1, Chris and Alicia were really close. So close that many people were expecting them to hook up. So they went from, that to trying to have them kill each other, and that transition in no way was believable or made the slightest bit of sense. And on top of all that, they ruined Nick's character with a tired, recycled plotline from the main show about the group that they were staying with treating the walkers as if they were real people, which I don't give a crap about what anyone says. That is just the same tired storyline we've seen on the main show several times, with the Herschel storyline and with the storyline with Lizzie, who both treated the walkers as if they were real people. Sure, Herschel thought they were infected, whereas Cecilia knew that they were dead, but thought it was a different form of life, but that doesn't change the fact that it's essentially the same goddamn storyline that, in fact, was never good to begin with, and Nick seemed to drink her Kool-Aid and believe the same bullcrap Herschel and Lizzie did, that the walkers were somehow people. And when Madison and her family rightfully destroyed the compound of psychos and killed the psycho Cecilia, Nick for some reason decided to go off on his own, which was really dumb. And on top of all that, Travis decided to go off on his own with Chris, having the season end with various characters split up in separate groups, which is once again a tired trope the main show has already done several times. So at this stage I had pretty much given up on the show, as they seemed to completely damage it and undermine any progress that they made in season 1. However, I did watch the second half of the season anyway, and the first episode did not at all inspire me, as it was rather boring, rather unoriginal, with just Nick walking alone in the desert. However, the show, surprisingly, did get better from there. While I maintained the whole Nick storyline in the second half of the season, where he stayed at yet another boring compound of unoriginal people led by a man who says he was bit by a walker who survived, and gee whiz, surprise, surprise, turns out he was lying the whole time. Ooh, I'm so shocked. And then they have this unconvincing romance with Nick and the lead female character in that group, because TV logic says you can't have a male and female character together without having them have a romance, which was just so contrived and ridiculous. I mean, this storyline did get somewhat interesting when they introduced the element of the cartel, whom they traded with, whom would eventually turn on them and want to kill them. But the whole thing about Nick's girlfriend refusing to leave even after she found out their leader was a fraud because of faith was really ridiculous. However, the other storylines from the second half of the season were a lot more interesting. To me, most importantly, was the hotel storyline, where Madison, Alicia, and Strand find a hotel with survivors, and together they band together to clear out all the walkers and make it a fortress. This is something that we didn't really get to see in the main show, showing the early days of the apocalypse and showing the origins of a group forming and them clearing out a building to turn it into a stronghold. Sure, they did this with the prison in the main show, but that was already an established group, so this was a bit different. Plus, I strongly feel that Madison and Strand were by far the best characters in the show, as they were some of the few that weren't completely ruined by the first half of the season, but I liked them even more in these episodes than I did before. I thought their interactions were golden, as was the new cast of characters they introduced by showing the origins with a wedding gone wrong, and how this led them to be at odds with each other. And then Madison came in and made peace between them. That was a brilliant storyline that worked really well. However, it was kind of ridiculous that Ophelia simply fled for no good reason, and they had some boring scenes with her off on her own, as the show seemed to be under the mistaken impression that we gave a crap about her, or that she was an interesting character in any way, shape, or form. And then, of course, we got this Chris and Travis storyline, which worked well enough. Though they had already ruined Chris's character at this point and had him acting like a moronic douche. But it was interesting seeing Travis coming to terms with the fact that his son was a douche, as he wanted to settle down and on a farm, but Chris had other ideas, especially when they meet up with some frat boys who are obviously total assholes. And when one of them gets injured, the other two simply want to kill him, where Travis tries to protect him and comfort him, but Chris tricks Travis in order to hold him back while the other frat boys kill their injured friend. Now, this was a really interesting and intense storyline, where Travis has to come face to face with the fact that his son is now a murdering asshole. However, I do have a major issue with this storyline, as it doesn't really make sense why the frat boys were so insistent on killing their friend rather than simply leaving him with Travis. I mean, the whole killing thing seemed to be like a mercy kill because someone was injured and they would slow them down and they wouldn't survive anyway, but it's a different situation when Travis is willing to stay behind and look after him. So some could try to come up with some excuses on why they would behave this way, but we all know the real reason why they behave this way, and that's because it was necessary for the plot. And that right there is all there is to it, and that, my friend, is surefire sign of bad writing. However, what they did next with the storyline was simply amazing, as Travis finds his way to the hotel and is reunited with Madison, but is haunted by leaving Chris behind. But she tries to comfort him by saying Chris was fine. That is, until the two frat boys he was with show up at the hotel without Chris. And she hears them talking and reasons that Chris died. She tries to send them away so Travis never finds out, but Travis spots them and interrogates them, and eventually finds out that they killed Chris after he was critically injured. And so he brutally murders them, and in the process injures one of the hotel residents. So they lock Travis in a room, and Madison agrees to leave with him in the morning, but then the injured man dies of his wounds, so then the hotel residents go to kill Travis for revenge. But Alicia stops them by killing one of them, and I have to say, this was amazing storytelling and so intense. If you look at Travis's overarching story throughout the entire show, it's totally brilliant. As he began the show as being very nonviolent, and many viewers complained that he was too naive. However, now he's a brutal killer, and the show very convincingly pulled this off and made this transition believable and very interesting. And the fact that they showed this change in Alicia too, where she was willing to kill to save Travis's life, was very shocking and added a great element to the story. And Madison's story arc works really well as she turned into a no-nonsense badass. So, Strand saves them by picking up a gun and scaring the others away, allowing Travis, Madison, and Alicia enough time to escape. But here's where the show starts to bother me again, because for some reason, Strand doesn't go with them, and that makes absolutely no sense. I mean, after he took the gun to protect them, he was an idiot to stay behind. He should realize that the other hotel people wouldn't take too kindly to this, and more to the point, I don't want him to leave the show, as he was one of the best characters on the show, so the show seems to be purposely getting rid of their best characters. I know it's possible we will see him again, but I'm not okay with this whole leaving him behind at the hotel, and I'm also disappointed that they left the hotel, even if I, thought the way they did it was amazing and the storyline played out perfectly. It does kind of suck that they won't be at the hotel anymore. And more to the point, the way they set up for Season 3 does not inspire me with confidence. So Ophelia is caught by some guy trying to cross the U.S. border, and when Nick and a group of refugees that he's with from the compound try to cross the border, they are attacked by a group led by the same guy. And then Nick and his girlfriend seem to survive, although she gets shot. But I think she might survive, but the rest of the survivors probably won't fare as well. And Madison and her group find out where Nick was headed, so we'll probably head that way too. And I gotta say, I'm not all that interested in this storyline. It doesn't look that appealing, so I can't say that I'm inspired with confidence waiting for Season 3. I'm sure I'll probably watch it, but I don't feel that strongly about it, despite how good this show got towards the end, as I feel this show, it seems to be one step forward and two steps back. So I can't say that I have high hopes for this show. So my rating for Season 2 of Fear the Walking Dead overall is a 4 poor. The first half of the season was absolutely horrible and ruined a lot of good characters and almost irreparably ruined the entire show. They managed to salvage some of it with a great storyline with Madison and Strand at the hotel, which packed one hell of a punch when Travis returned there as well to have some amazing storytelling, but at the same time, the next storyline was a bit lackluster and boring, and even the good storylines weren't without their flaws. So this only keeps me from giving Season 2 a 1 or a 2, which is what the first half would have gotten. But it's not enough for me to say that the season was good overall, because it wasn't. So that's it for my review of Fear the Walking Dead Season 2. Hopefully, I will be joining Don Willie this weekend to have a discussion about Fear the Walking Dead Season 2 with Josh and Anna from Geeksiders over on their channel. So keep an eye on my channel and on Geeksiders for more information, and be sure to join us for that. Also be sure to check out my channel for many more reviews on shows like Game of Thrones, Star Trek, and more. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.